though with this new record that you just released, and then go back and talk about a few key moments in your musical history. So
Okay.
just releasing in September, in a few weeks or in a month, the set, which I listened to last night, and it's a great album, beautiful, very expansive, gorgeous, gorgeous playing,
Thank you.
and a bunch of those songs are re-recordings of songs you had done in the past. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. We do concerts all over the place, and people always come up and say, "Where can I find that song that you guys played?" They may not even know the name of it. The fourth song that you played. Where can I find that? And I have to say, well, it's on a record. I recorded it a long time ago, but it's on a label that none of us can access at this point. It's like something on when I was on the MCA Master Series. Uh, we recorded things on there, and then MCA just shelves them all. They don't know what to do with them. They put them on the shelf, and I can't access it. I can't have it back, and I don't know what date that. I think I would just have to die, and then they would do something with it. But I would have to tell people, I can't point you in a direction. So I decided to re-record some of these songs because when you write a song, you don't really know the song, and it takes about a year to really flesh it out and to know the song. So it's been a long time since I recorded those songs, and with the band that I have right now, I love the way they play the songs. I mean, this band, I just love the overall sound of this band. So I did re-record some songs, so I could have them all in one place, and so somebody could walk away with this record and walk away with the whole show in their hand. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a set list, and they are tunes that we play on a regular basis. There some of the new ones that we did record. We haven't played as much, but there's nothing on there that we haven't played for at least 6 months or a year. So we know it. It's not brand new to us, and we're not being careful. We're gonna shoot for the stars. We're gonna try to make it as great as possible. And I love the band, and I'm playing with Daniel Kimbrough playing bass. Mike Seal is an amazing electric guitar player. I mean, and Christian Settlemeyer, just the sweetest violin. But these guys are all like jazz standards too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's a wide uh sort of a wide berth that we climb around in, and we bring different kinds of music into the songs. And but I really wanted to make this record that I could point people to and say, you can hear all of the songs that we just played, uh, and you can take that home with you. I kind of got the idea from I do this thing called transatlantic sessions
Sure.
that's in starts in Scotland every year, and we tour it now. It was a TV show. We did six different shows, and they had 6 episodes each. So there was a lot of music, and it was from people all over the map. And it was just a collaboration thing. We throw people together, and when that was over, it was over. It never happened again. The show would never happen again because those people would never be together in that combination again. So it's kind of like it was an experiment, and they all went really well.
Yeah.
So we decided to start recording the first 2 nights and we'd do the same show, but we'd pull the best performances. And then by the third or fourth gig, we would have the whole show, or the best of the show, recorded and on a CD, which are slowly going away as well. But
Coming
yes,
back
I
to
know I
vinyl
got
right now.
vinyl back there. Yes, sir. That'll be around forever. And so it was one of those things where I wanted people to be able to leave with the show like they do with the transatlantic one. They can actually buy the CD of what they just heard. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
only maybe the first couple nights were scarier than the rest after we got settled down. So they actually may be more exciting
Well,
because they were because of the fear running through the band.
well, I'm glad you brought up the transatlantic sessions because there's a connection between that and the new album you did, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," which I believe on the transatlantic sessions you did with Clapton, who originally played on the original version.
Yeah, there was a funny conversation we had about that when I asked him if he wanted to because I was playing it every night on the shows, and Eric has been coming to that to the transatlantic shows for the last 5 or 6 years. One of his daughters got really into it and said, you gotta go see this. You have to see this. You've never seen anything like this." And I kind of knew him already at that point. So and he said, you mind if I come down and watch the show? I said, "No, man, I'd love for you to come watch the show." And then sooner or later it got around, can I get up and play a tune on the show? And I was like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, this year I'm playing. I start the second half of the show with where when my guitar gently weeps, and he said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah. Would you want to come up and play on that with me?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Do you play the chorus?" And I said, "Yeah, I play the chorus." He says, "I've never played the chorus." I said, "Well, it's probably because you were singing, or somebody else took the chorus, but." He played with us that night, and that made big news. And but then we uh, came back a couple months later and went to Abbey Road. I brought the whole transatlantic band down to Abbey Road to Studio Two, where the Beatles cut everything.
Yeah.
And we went in there with Eric, and we recut we cut this song called Sam Hall, and it's an Irish protest song from long ago. And so I produced three or four tracks on Clapton in there for that session, and a couple of them have already seen light, and I'm anxious for Sam Hall to get out there. But yeah, the Beatles didn't want to cut While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and so George called Eric Clapton, and they made it a hit all by
Yeah,
themselves.
iconic, iconic, and you do a great version of it, and
Thanks. It lays so well on the dobro. Uh it's an easier than usual chord progression for dobro. It just lays perfectly. That A minor coming off of that A minor. A minor is a really fun chord to play in, as you know. And B minor is my favorite, but A minor's a lot of fun too. And so um so we played it there, and then we decided to doing this record of the set. I said, that should be on there. That's new. We need new, and we need old songs that I recorded a long time ago that I know so much better now. And I know, they're like kids that have grown up. I know all of their personality now, and when a song is brand new like that, you can do anything with it you want to, but the more you play it, and the more you learn about it, uh, it just becomes a different thing than when it originally was.
absolutely.
And that's where we are now with this band. I love the way this band plays everything. I mean, I love the sound of the band. So it was a no-brainer to go and cut a whole bunch of these songs that people couldn't find, and give them access again to songs that were gone.
Well, you do
And
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful versions of them. I also really like the version of "Something You Got" you do. I'm familiar with that through Wilson Pickett. And
yeah,
I love the one you do, and I want to ask you a little about, you've talked about in the past where I've listened to interviews where you've talked about Josh Graves being one of your heroes, and Lester Flats, and Earl Scruggs. And at that time, when Something You Got and While Your Guitar Gently Weeps, were you in the late mid '60s? Were you into that kind of music as well, or were you fully immersed into the bluegrass?
Well, it was more of an immersion in bluegrass because of you know, I was uh raised in a house where there was a lot of country music, but mostly it was my bluegrass music. My father played guitar, sang lead, and had his own bluegrass band, and they were all guys from West Virginia because they had all moved up to Ohio to find work, in the steel mills. So he had this band that was made up entirely of guys from West Virginia, but those guys were good. I mean, they could have. I mean, I have tapes listening to them play that are as good as most bands are now. I mean, but they were laborers, and they couldn't, I imagine their dream was to like take off and, in a bus or anything and be a band on the road, to feel that. But they couldn't, they had jobs and they had families and they couldn't, they, they're, they were already, going to doing what they were going to be doing.
Yeah,
They couldn't leave their situations. But I got to grow up and listen to that and watch people arrange songs, what solo goes here, who sings with who here, what lines. And that was like when I was 6, 7 years old, from there on up. So this producer hat that I wear once in a while comes pretty natural to me. There's a lot of history, uh, just starting with being 6 years old and hearing somebody go,
yeah,
you back the chorus, I'll back the verse. It's
yeah,
like, what's that mean? Later on, I figured out what that meant and watched it in real time be played out. There's no better a way to learn than that. And I just, I love trying to make things better than I found them.
yeah. And
I
were
like to
you
better.
did you come across in those early days? You're one of the innovators, obviously, in progressive bluegrass, and prior to that, the Byrds with Clarence White, or even Chris Hillman and the Dillards, and even the Grateful Dead, taking some of those old traditions. Were
Yeah.
any of those stuff come on your radar at that those early ages?
Not when I was not at an early age. I remember getting we did get a record though that was the Scottsville Squirrel Barkers.
Yeah, yeah,
And Chris Hillman was in that
sure.
band, and so was Herb Peterson too, I think.
Yes, yeah, he was.
And who was, oh, Don Parmley was the banjo player who later on was the leader of the Bluegrass Cardinals, of a highly
Yeah,
uh, respected bluegrass band. And so it's easier for us bluegrass musicians to creep into these other genres, and to cross the fence, uh, than it is to come the other direction
yeah, yeah,
for rock players or any classical players or anybody else, folk musicians, to get into bluegrass music because it's such a physical music, you know, and and a geographical kind of music.
yeah,
Most people came from the South originally that played that music, and then all of a sudden there's Tony Trischka and Russ Barenberg and all these guys in New York City. They all went to Cornell. They all went to Cornell and met each other up there and started this bluegrass band. And there was no bluegrass anywhere up there.
right.
Bluegrass is from Kentucky and North Carolina, but no one told them, and they just loved it, and and attacked it from a different angle than a lot of us who heard it growing up. They didn't hear it growing up, so they went the historical route. They went back and met. They'd go to down to Union Grove and meet all these old timers and get the history of it, where they learned it, you know, and uh, and just to be able to figure out just the historical, just the facts about it, and then learn the music, because it was all brand new to them.
Yeah.
And but they had just heard, like Bela heard uh, Earl Scruggs play on the Beverly Hillbillies, and that turned him on to banjo. And now look at it, you
Yeah.
know, it's like
Absolutely.
he's the guy that changed banjo from Earl Scruggs. I mean, there were a lot of people playing differently than Earl Scruggs, different styles, but nobody took it to a completely different genre, the instrument,
Absolutely.
and drug all the bluegrass with him. You know, all of a sudden, in the middle of a big zeet booba kind of a solo, you'll hear a Scruggs run, you know, and you go, oh, look, you hear that? It's still there. He's still in there. And then
Yeah.
at Bela, you know, we're always Sam Bush and I especially are always on Bela. They're like, pull your hand back just a little bit closer to the bridge, you know. It's like, that's not Bela. Bela's, you know, he's changed that. He's changed that when he's so melodic and even, and where Earl Scruggs was like dynamic, and was like suddenly there'd be this power move, you know, in the background when it sounded like the whole band hydroplaned, you know.
Yeah.
It's very exciting when Earl Scruggs would get up to take a solo, just pop up out of the band and just sort of lean a little bit, and the band stays here. He goes here, like he's looking out over the precipice, you know. And it was exciting because it felt like it was just gave you the same feeling as hydroplaning in your car. It was exciting. I don't know what's going to happen here, you know.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting about that's one thing about bluegrass music that can, in the right hands, these instruments do amazing things.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about another banjo player that was very influential in the world of bluegrass and in your life, which is J.D. Crowe. And
Yeah.
about what fascinates me, you had the Newgrass revival, you had Seldom Seen, and you had J.D. Crowe. And what fascinates me that progressive bluegrass, a lot of it was built at a Holiday Inn lounge in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell our listeners just kind of a little about that scene, that Red Slipper Lounge, and how you got involved in that world.
Well, I have tapes from uh from two or three different sources, who would from people who would go make the journey down to Lexington, Kentucky, to see this band play, to see J.D. Crowe and whoever was in J.D. Crowe's band at that point. If it was Doyle Lawson and Red Allen, or if it was Tony Rice and Larry Rice, or Ricky, or me. But people would make that trip just to go down there and see that band play, because they played all different kinds of. Crowe, JD he originally wanted to be an electric guitar player. He wanted to be a telly player.
Mm.
He wanted to be like, you know, he was raised during like the surf time. The Beach Boys were little kids, and just starting, and all that kind of stuff. But it was really the Telecaster that turned JD on as a young kid, along with, you know, being such a master at the banjo as he was at a very young age. But that stuff would creep into his playing. You know, the real
Yeah.
pull. He'd start pushing strings and pulling strings and
Yeah.
bending strings, instead of, you know, just to give it a tougher attitude. And they played modern songs, because they were playing to in a bar in a hotel, you know, so they had to take on somebody had to yell out, you know, smoke on the water or something once in a while.
Did you guys do Smoke on the Water? Is that's the type of thing?
You know what Boone Creek was forced to do, smoke on the water, once, by this motorcycle gang that was sitting in front of us at
I love that. I hope there's a
a
tape of that somewhere.
yeah,
Awesome.
oh, we paid our dues. But you know, we've also played behind chicken wire. But and I know JD talked about he'd played behind plenty of chicken wire down there. But that was the thing. So they would play all kinds of songs. You Are What I Am, all these Chubby Checker songs, and all these Fats Domino, all of these songs. Those came out of Crowe's earlier life, and he just couldn't let go of them, so they played them.
Yeah.
They would play that kind of stuff, and then they would shift into Crowe's world of just flying great banjo, just so much full of character and Crowe would love Crowe had a thing that he would do that was different from any other banjo player, or maybe he saw Earl do it, but before his solo, he was total deaf quiet, you know. And then the first beat of his solo was like boom, and it was like it was like a G force, and it was electric. It would raise everybody up. And same thing with Tony, or any of us when we get into our solo, when you get into this spot where everything starts to groove, the whole band starts to cook,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful thing about acoustic music, that you can hear it formulate. You can hear it start coming together. Uh, where electric bands are more, they don't really use that avenue to put their songs together. I think what we did when I joined that band, uh, I was a totally new sound in that band. That I mean, that Ricky and Tony talked JD into giving me a try, and
Right. I heard that JD didn't want a dobro in the band. Is that right?
no, he didn't. He thought it had enough voices. He didn't dislike Dobro. He just thought they had enough voices. It was gonna, But I said, I'm not into. I don't care if I play a solo. Just let me, back vocals. Just be another color in the palette here. And we didn't really have a discussion on those terms that much, but that's what I was trying to do. And I think he saw that was something they didn't have that he always wanted. It took a little pressure off of him, and it allowed him to be more explosive, and it was a good thing for everybody, especially me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't in that band very long, but what we did in that band for in that length of time was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the record you guys put out, well, just for the audience, so everybody knows, that was Ricky Skaggs, you, Bobby Sloan, JD Crowe, and Tony Rice. So probably some of the best musicians maybe ever to play bluegrass together. And you guys put out the album 0044, which recently was, I think, wasn't it put into like the National Library of Congress as
It was,
historic
yeah, it was
recording?
just inducted into the Library of Congress, so it's like in stone now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the landmark mark albums. And when you were recording that, did you recognize that there was something special happening between the five of y'all?
I didn't know that it was going to do what it did, explode. I just knew that it was good. I just knew that it was really good, and it hadn't happened before. There was something different about it, and and I thought this is going to do well. Uh, but I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking about how much fun I was playing the music with JD Crowe and Tony Rice and Rick.
Yeah,
I was just happy to be there
yeah,
at that point, and I wasn't really in the band, until a couple of months later. But I knew we were doing something different, and I only went in there to play on two songs and ended up playing on most of the record. And that's more or less. I think that's when JD joined the club and said, "Okay, this guy's all right. Yeah, let's go ahead and make him part of this record too." So that was a big shift, and that was a big chance that he took. And JD was, yeah, just such a great guy. Never, between me and him, there was never a negative word, or never negative conversation, nothing. JD was JD, and just a great man, and had a great career, and was a good role model, you know,
Yeah.
because I was 19 when I joined that band, and I was still learning, how to buy insurance. I wasn't, much less play the guitar. But what an education, So I was in the Country Gentleman, and enjoying that, and enjoying that as well. Just be out there, be this teenager out there playing music with these guys, who were at the top of the heap, was mind blowing, and kind of hard to hold it together sometimes, just because I was standing there with them. I was still having this hero worship while I'm in the band with them. And but that never left me, never. It still hasn't. It still hasn't. I mean, Tony and JD aren't here anymore, but God, I don't know how you could ever replace them. They are just going to be absorbed into the lore of bluegrass, and held high forever, I hope, and because of what all they did, and just what models they were for the rest of us to follow. And all these new guitar, there is not a guitar player in bluegrass music that doesn't play Tony Rice licks.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And the same with Crowe, and I played with Bill Emerson before I played with JD Crowe, and Bill Emerson was a lot the same. I mean, he was also an iconic, had come out of the school of Jimmy Martin. I don't know how Jimmy Martin beat timing and tone into these guys, and he did a good thing. He did a very good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Alan Munday, who is going into the Hall of Fame with me, was also one of those JD Crowe, one of those Jimmy Martin banjo players.
What I'm curious, what was the reaction at the time from folks like Earl Scruggs or Jimmy Martin, any of these people that were on the more traditional side? Because I think about Bob Dylan going electric and Pete Seeger wanting to cut the chords.
Yeah.
What was the traditional musicians' feedback towards how you guys are progressing?
We got a little pushback. Got a little pushback. It was gentle. Uh it wasn't anything. Nobody said, "Oh, you guys are not playing bluegrass music," or anything like that. I mean, they were just kind of standing there watching. And I think, knowing that, what they had felt when they hit their peak, they knew what we were feeling.
Yeah.
And so I didn't hear any negative comments from anybody like Jimmy Martin or Bill Monroe or anybody like that. There's the old story about uh, Newgrass Revival playing for Bill Monroe, and they were getting ready to play Bean Blossom, and Bill said to Sam, he said, "What is it you call your music?" And Sam said, "We call it Newgrass, Bill." And he said, "Yeah, I hate that," which really didn't happen. I asked Sam, I said, "Did that really happen?" And he said, "No, it
uh,
didn't go like that, but it was pretty close." He says,
that's awesome.
He asked Courtney to play banjo with him on his set, and then he heard Courtney play, and he just said, he's not the guy." But it was a clash of the Titans, so
Fantastic.
pretty much, and no one came away hurt on
Yeah.
that one.
Well,
Yeah.
bluegrass keeps expanding, and last thing I want to talk about or ask you about is the future of bluegrass. We've got Molly Tuttle, who you've produced, and Billy Strings. These people that are taking bluegrass or the bluegrass tradition and expanding it to huge audiences. I mean, what is your take on all this?
You know, I have played to huge audiences, with Allison in Union Station. In the last 2 years we were out, we were playing to thousands and thousands of people every night, and it was a great feeling, and it's just a massive thing, and you're just kind of like, you can't believe all these people are here. And Billy's playing full stadiums,
Yeah.
and he's still Billy. He's still the same guy I met the first time I ever met him. He's the same guy. He's great. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He took the right off. He took the right off ramp
Yeah.
in his life, to take he went the right direction, and and I just love him for it. I mean, he talks about it, but he's one of the he's one of the old timer bluegrass guys in his soul. He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
He when he stands out there and does some song, that I remember my father singing, to 50,000 people, and they're all going, "What?" It's like uh, uh, it's just amazing to me to think. I mean, I can't really wrap my head around it yet. How did this happen? But it's just one of those things. The stars align. I mean, the business, the end of it was as good as the music end of it, and it worked. And
Absolutely.
that's why he's where he is, and we're all so thrilled about it. And I actually, right after the induction ceremony for IBMA, I'm going to renewal. The next day, I'm flying out to hang my whole band, flying out to hang and be part of renewal with Billy Strings in
Amazing.
Colorado the next day. And so it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we'll
That's
try.
really,
Wide open, try it all. So uh, I asked him. I said, what is renewal? He said, "You'll see."
well, that's great. Well, he owes it to you and the template that you and Sam Bush and Bella Fleck and Tony Rice, all y'all, paved the way for this to happen.
And he is so forthcoming with that. Is what is it's so cool that he's like ruling the roost right now. There's nobody as famous as him and well known as him. Billy Strings. I remember when Brian Sutton, great guitar player, walked up with Billy Strings, and he said to me, Brian said, "Jerry, meet Billy Strings, future of bluegrass music." And it was like 5 years before Billy did any of this stuff. I think Brian should be the guy, the committee.
Amazing. Well, Jerry, I want to thank you so much for the time. I want to thank you so much for all the music you've created over the years, and I want to encourage everyone listening to this to check out the set and watch you play. I know I've looked at your tour dates. You got a lot on the East Coast and the South. I'm hoping eventually you'll make it out west, and some of us
Yeah,
out here get to hear you.
we'll get out there. It
Good.
won't be long.
All
It
right,
won't
good.
be
I look
long.
forward
I'm
to it.
trying to get there. So thanks a lot for
Thank
having
you.
me on, and I've enjoyed it. Maybe sometime we can just talk lap steels instead.
I would love that. All right, peace, Jerry. I'll see
All
you
right,
soon. All
thanks,
right,
man.
bye bye.
Nice talking to you.
Too.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to the Legends Podcast by All Day Vinyl. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate it, share it, subscribe, and follow us and check us out at All Day Vinyl on Instagram and YouTube.